Tori. The Cleveland Browns, they've had many first-round picks in the last year. They've rolled through quarterbacks like, they were yesterday's news. They have finally possibly found their guy in Baker Mayfield. So this year's draft, I kind of feel like it was adding, adding depth to particular pieces here. So I'm going to ask you this question first. Who was the best draft pick for the Cleveland Browns this season?
I know Wyatt's going to say the exact same guy I am, because I think Wyatt and I were kind of waiting for this guy to come off the board, because there's no way he should have lasted until the 52nd pick. And that's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Not at all. The guy is a first-round talent. The guy was a mid-first-round talent. Late first round at the very worst, should have been gone by then. How anybody didn't trade up to draft this kid in the first round, I will never know. NFL teams must have seen something that we didn't for him to drop this far. But hands down, best pick they had, probably the second best linebacker in this draft, behind Micah Parsons in my book. And he fell that far. That's inexcusable. But there again, we've seen a couple of players like that fell a long way too. And one thing I was going to bring up yesterday too, about like when we talked about like Jacksonville, and I did, was one of their best draft picks was a guy that didn't even get drafted, and that was Dylan Moses. That was like the 106th ranked prospect, and he didn't even go get drafted. 2 years ago, they were talking about that kid going in the top 10. Injuries happened, some stuff happened, and he had a down year in 2020 coming back of that knee injury, and so be it. But still, I digress with that. Koramoah, hands down, probably one of the less. This is a defense that added Koramoah. They added Greg Newsom in the first round.
Yeah.
They got Tarek McKinley from the Falcons, and I do believe they traded for him from the Falcons to go with an already stout defense. This is going to be probably one of the scariest defenses in the league for about the next 4 to 5 years. So I think that this is not our daddy's Browns, where the Browns were terrible and just you could laugh at them every time they made a draft pick. They've gotten really good. They've gotten a lot of great picks. Lord knows they had enough top 10 picks. So they've come out and they've actually drafted smart. They've drafted well. About probably the worst pick that they had so far was in the last 4 or 5 years is Jabril Peppers. That just didn't pan out. They still got something for him. They traded him to the Giants.
They got Landon Collins, didn't they, for him?
No, Landon Collins went to Washington.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So before I kick it to Wyatt here, Jameson says that linebacker was the biggest deal in the whole draft. So
absolutely,
definitely on board with you on Tory there. So Wyatt, are you in the same boat there?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. Tory touched everything I was going to say. What he said was exactly right. He is arguably, I think he's got a shot to be the best linebacker in this draft. I think Jermaine Davis in Washington and I think Micah Parsons in Dallas is going to have something to say about that. But, I mean, this kid is going to a team that's already on a stout defense. They've got a stout offense. This if you want to talk about teams that 100% got better in their draft, this is the team. This right here is.
All right, so who was their worst draft pick?
I have not done this the whole time we've been doing these draft grades, but I'm starting tonight with this team. There was not a single bad draft pick by the Browns. I loved their draft. I loved the Newsom pick. I loved Owusu-Koramoah in the second round. They just didn't go wrong anywhere. Every pick I saw, I felt like that was their biggest need. That was the best player on the board. They went out and they got that player. So, there was no bad picks. And like I said, I hate doing that. I don't want to be that guy to just be like, oh, there was no bad picks. But there genuinely wasn't. There genuinely was not a bad pick, in my opinion, for the Browns. They had an amazing draft. This team got so much better. And I'm telling you guys, I've been saying this all offseason. They're a top 5 team in the league next year. I promise. Baker Mayfield's a top 5 quarterback next year in MVP voting for quarterbacks.
All right. So the Browns have officially come out, said that they're not interested in Aaron Rodgers as well. So you got that going for you as well over there in Packerland. So Tori, who is the Browns 2021 worst draft pick?
I gotta agree with Wyatt. There wasn't one. Their biggest need was at quarterback and at linebacker. They addressed that in the first 2 rounds. Everything back behind that was to address depth, and they
Yeah.
addressed every need that they had. So I can't fault them for one pick. Like I keep looking at it and I'm like, well, maybe Tony Fields, not really. Richard LeCount,
Like yeah, like
not
I
really.
can give you a sideways answer of like who was their worst pick, like their seventh rounder because he was the least talented player they got. But at the same time,
But
these were
even that,
all
they
good
they
picks.
they got Demetric Felton,
I mean, all good picks, man.
who is
There
who
was
is a
literally
really
none.
is kind of a Swiss Army knife running back from UCLA.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there was not really a bad pick.
Uh,
Uh,
good.
go ahead. No, I'm good.
Yeah, so I just wanted to address this comment here that Jameson said. Let's not forget that they picked up Clowney too in the off
Yeah.
season. So if Clowney is even a former shell of himself that he was in Houston, not in Seattle, but in Houston, he definitely adds depth to that defensive line over there in Cleveland. So the next question here, obviously, Tori, as you kind of hit on it, did they get better in this draft? And like you said, yes. So what is their grade in this year's draft?
You can't give him anything but an A plus on this draft. When you hit everything that you did not make one bad pick in your draft. You have to give him an A plus. You filled your needs that you did with your first 2 picks, and from there you went straight depth. Not you can't not give him an A plus on this draft.
What?
I agree 100%. A plus. If I could pull an A plus plus, I would. But A plus is the highest it goes. So I give them an A plus. Like Tori said, they filled all their needs. They added the depth they needed at positions they needed. I mean, they got some steals. I mean, Greg Newsom is a guy who most people don't know, but he's a guy who, if you watch the film and you watch the tape, he's one of the top DBs in this draft. And it's going to show. I mean, they're adding that to Denzel Ward, who's already great.